Ancient storytellers described the cosmos with gods and monsters. What if they were also describing reality? We are about to explore 25 ancient myths from around the globe that align with modern science in ways that seem impossible. You will see how civilizations separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles arrived at truths about our universe that science has only recently confirmed. How could Hindu sages calculate the lifespan of the universe? Why do cultures worldwide share a story of a great flood? By the end, you will see mythology not as simple fantasy, but as humanity's first attempt to explain a complex world. What ancient story has always felt strangely true to you? Our universe has a birthday. Scientists call it the Big Bang, a moment of cosmic birth from a single point of unimaginable density. Yet, thousands of years before telescopes and particle accelerators, ancient Hindu sages described a cosmos that was not born once, but is born again and again in an endless, rhythmic dance. They called this vast cycle a kalpa, a single day in the life of the creator god Brahma. Each kalpa is a complete iteration of the universe, spanning its creation, its long preservation, and its eventual dissolution, only to be reborn once more. The scale of time involved is almost beyond human comprehension. One kalpa, one of Brahma's days, was calculated to last for 4.32 billion years. This is not a random number pulled from the air. Modern science estimates the current age of our universe from the Big Bang to the present day at roughly 13.8 billion years. When you line up the cycles described in the ancient texts, the numbers align with a precision that defies simple coincidence. The texts speak of a universe that breathes, expanding and contracting over eons, a concept that mirrors our own scientific models of a universe that may one day end in a heat death or collapse back upon itself in a great big crunch. How could a civilization gazing at the stars with the naked eye conceive of deep time on such a grand scale? This was not a wild guess. It was a detailed cosmological vision, a myth that captures the fundamental nature of our reality as a continuous cycle of death and rebirth playing out on the grandest stage imaginable. That ancient rhythm of cosmic rebirth finds a stunning echo much closer to home, in the very ground beneath our feet. Long before the science of geology had a name, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia were preserving a profound truth about our planet in their sacred Dreamtime stories. These are not mere tales, they are a vast and intricate map of creation, describing a time when the world was soft and the ancestral beings moved across the landscape, shaping the mountains, the rivers, and the coastlines with their journeys. Many of these narratives speak of a time when the land was one, a continuous whole before great changes occurred. They tell of seas rising to fill vast basins, isolating what was once connected. They describe the creation of islands from a formerly continuous coastline, events that sound remarkably like a cultural memory of continental drift. For science, this story begins with a supercontinent called Pangaea. Over hundreds of millions of years, this single, massive landmass began to fracture and drift apart. The pieces, our modern continents, slowly sailed across the globe on massive tectonic plates. Australia itself was once locked together with Antarctica and India, a connection severed as the land slowly, inexorably journeyed north. The ancient Dreamtime stories seem to remember this. Oral traditions passed down for over 50,000 years describe geographic features that align with this prehistoric reality. Narratives detail river systems that now lie submerged under the ocean and tell of walking routes that are today impossible, severed by open water. This is not a vague coincidence. It is a detailed, place-based knowledge system that recorded a changing world. Imagine animated maps showing the breakup of that ancient supercontinent, the slow-motion dance of the continents pulling away from each other. Now, listen to the stories of the Dreamtime, which speak of those same separations, of lands dividing and waters flooding in. How could such detailed geographical knowledge survive for so many generations unless it was based on a real, witnessed event? A truth so monumental it was woven into the very fabric of culture and identity. It suggests that the Dreamtime is not just a time of creation in the distant past, but a living record of our planet's dramatic history. That same sense of a living, interconnected world finds its echo not just on Earth, but in the very architecture of the cosmos itself. Ancient Norse poets and seers described the universe not as a dark, empty void, but as a colossal, vibrant tree. They called it Yggdrasil, the world tree, an immense and eternal ash whose roots and branches hold all of creation together. Its three great roots delve into separate wells, tapping into different sources of wisdom and destiny, while its mighty trunk rises through the center of everything. In its high branches rests Asgard, the realm of the gods, and within its vast canopy and among its roots are 8 other worlds, from our own Midgard, the world of humanity, to the frosty land of the giants and the dark realm of the dead. This was not a universe of isolated islands floating in nothingness. It was a single, breathing entity, a network of life and power where every action in one realm could send a tremor through all the others. A squirrel runs up and down the trunk carrying messages, an eagle sits at the top, and a dragon gnaws at the roots. Every part is connected, every branch and root a pathway. The Norse vision was one of profound cosmic unity. Now, fast forward to the 21st century. Our most powerful telescopes and supercomputer simulations have mapped the universe on its largest scale. What they reveal is not a random scattering of galaxies, but an immense, delicate, and breathtaking structure. We call it the cosmic web. Imagine a vast, three-dimensional spider web, or the intricate, branching pattern of neurons in a gigantic brain. This is the large-scale structure of the universe. Gigantic filaments of dark matter, invisible and mysterious, form the skeleton of this web. Along these filaments, like dew on a spider's thread, galaxies are drawn together into massive clusters. Between these brilliant strands are enormous, empty voids, regions of profound darkness and near nothingness. This cosmic web is the real Yggdrasil. It is the underlying architecture that connects all the luminous worlds we see in the night sky. The galaxies are not isolated. They are nodes on a network held in place by the invisible threads of gravity and dark matter. The ancient Norse saw a tree connecting 9 worlds. Our science reveals a web connecting hundreds of billions of galaxies. Both visions, separated by over 1,000 years, conceive of a cosmos that is fundamentally structured, interconnected, and alive with relationship. The dragon Nidhogg gnawing at the roots of Yggdrasil finds a strange parallel in the mysterious force of dark energy, slowly pulling the cosmic web apart. The idea that everything is linked, from the smallest leaf to the highest god, from a single star to a supercluster of galaxies, is a truth that mythology grasped long before our science could provide the map. The idea of a world tree connecting the cosmos is a vision of profound order, but our planet's history is also written in moments of pure, chaotic destruction. Plato, the great philosopher of ancient Greece, gave us one of the most enduring stories of all time, the legend of Atlantis. He described a formidable naval power, an advanced and mighty civilization that existed 9,000 years before his own time. This island nation, lying beyond the Pillars of Hercules, was a utopia of immense wealth and sophisticated engineering, but its people grew arrogant and the gods punished them. In one terrible day and night of fire and earthquakes, the entire island was swallowed by the sea, vanishing without a trace. For centuries, this was considered a philosophical fable, a moral lesson about hubris. But what if this myth, like so many others, holds a kernel of geological truth? The sheer violence of the story, the sudden and total submergence of a powerful culture, points to a real, catastrophic event seared into human memory. Modern geology tells us that such disasters are not only possible, they have happened. Around the year 1600 BCE, the Mediterranean island of Thera, now known as Santorini, was the site of one of the most violent volcanic eruptions in human history. The event was cataclysmic. The center of the island collapsed into a vast, seawater-filled caldera. Scientists estimate the eruption was 4 times more powerful than the famous explosion of Krakatoa. It would have generated colossal tsunamis, towering waves radiating outward across the Aegean Sea at incredible speeds. These walls of water would have slammed into the northern coast of Crete, the heart of the sophisticated Minoan civilization. The Minoans were a dominant maritime power with elaborate palace complexes and a culture of stunning art and technology. The eruption and its aftermath would have been apocalyptic for them. The tsunamis would have obliterated their coastal cities and fleet. A thick layer of volcanic ash would have buried their farmlands, causing famine and collapse. Almost overnight, a great civilization was brought to its knees. The timeline is compelling. Plato wrote about Atlantis around 360 BCE, but he was recounting a story told to his ancestor, Solon, by Egyptian priests centuries earlier. This chain of oral history could easily have compressed the timeline, transforming a disaster from 1200 years before Solon's time into a tale from 9,000 years in the past. The geographical description of a circular island with a central city, now lost beneath the waves, mirrors the structure of the Santorini caldera itself. Imagine the sight from a ship approaching an island that was once whole, now a broken ring of land surrounding a deep blue bay where a mountain once stood. Underwater archaeology around Santorini and other parts of the Mediterranean has revealed the ruins of ancient settlements now submerged, proving that coastlines can and do change with violent suddenness. The myth of Atlantis is not a simple map to a sunken city. It is the echo of a real collective trauma. It captures the terrifying power of nature to erase even the most advanced societies in a single furious day. It is a story that reminds us that the ground we build our civilizations upon is not always solid, and that the sea holds secrets of worlds we have forgotten. The same raw power that swallowed Atlantis also shaped the foundations of Chinese civilization, but there the story took a different turn. For generations, a terrible flood was said to have inundated the land, a relentless deluge that no wall could contain. The legendary Emperor Yao first tasked a man named Gun to control the waters. Gun's approach was to build dikes to fight the river with force, stacking barrier upon barrier. For 9 years he labored, and for 9 years the waters continued to rise, his efforts ending in utter failure. It was his son, Yu, who would learn from this catastrophic mistake. Yu the Great did not try to conquer the flood. Instead, he embarked on a 13-year journey to understand it. He walked the length and breadth of the land, surveying the entire watershed. He saw that the water needed a path, not a prison. His revolutionary solution was not to block the rivers, but to guide them. He dredged silt-choked riverbeds and carved out new channels, creating a network of canals that gave the floodwaters a way to flow harmlessly out to the sea. He transformed the raging, destructive force into a managed resource, creating a system of agriculture that would fuel the rise of the Xia dynasty. This ancient myth is a masterclass in systemic thinking. Yu did not see a single river as the problem. He saw the entire landscape as an interconnected system. His work was a form of ancient ecological engineering, a principle modern water management has only recently embraced as the gold standard. Today, we call this holistic approach watershed management. It is the understanding that you cannot control a river at just one point. You must consider the entire system, the forests that absorb rainfall on the mountains, the wetlands that act as natural sponges, the shape of the riverbanks, and the flow of every tributary. Modern projects now replicate Yu's wisdom by removing artificial levees to restore floodplains, creating bypass channels for excess water, and recognizing that concrete walls often just push the problem downstream, creating a more devastating flood for someone else. Imagine ancient Chinese scrolls depicting Yu's canal networks, their intricate lines mirroring the satellite views of modern river diversions. The legend of Yu the Great is more than a founding myth. It is a timeless lesson written in water and earth, a story that teaches us that true control comes not from fighting nature's power, but from understanding its flow. From the controlled waters of Yu the Great's canals, we journey to a time when the entire world seemed to drown. Nearly every culture on Earth tells a story of a catastrophic, all-consuming flood. The Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh describes a god who decides to destroy humanity with a great deluge, warning one righteous man, Utnapishtim, to build a boat and save the seeds of life. The Hebrew Bible tells of Noah, instructed by God to build an ark to survive a flood meant to cleanse a corrupt world. The ancient Greeks had Deucalion, the Hindus had Manu, and the indigenous peoples of the Americas have their own powerful flood legends. These stories are separated by continents and centuries, yet their core is hauntingly the same, a terrifying memory of water covering the land. Why would this specific cataclysm be so universally remembered? The answer is written in the ancient ice. For science, this is not a mystery of divine anger, but a story of planetary climate change. Around 12,000 years ago, the last great ice age was coming to a close. Vast ice sheets, some over a mile thick, blanketed much of North America and Europe. As the global climate warmed, these colossal glaciers began to melt, releasing an unimaginable volume of water into the world's oceans. This was not a gentle, gradual rise. Scientists have identified periods of extremely rapid sea level rise, known as meltwater pulses. One such pulse, around 11,500 years ago, could have raised global sea levels by several feet per generation. Over the course of a few centuries, the oceans rose by nearly 400 feet. Think of the world's coastlines as they were then. Vast, fertile plains that are now submerged under the sea were once dry land, perfect for human habitation. The land bridge connecting Asia and North America, known as Beringia, was a wide, grassy plain. The Persian Gulf was a lush, inhabited valley. The Sunda Shelf connected the islands of Indonesia into a single, massive peninsula. These were not marginal territories, they were the heartlands of early human civilization, the places where people first built settlements, told their first stories, and forged their identities. Then the water came. It did not arrive as a single 40-day rain, but as an unstoppable, creeping advance. Shorelines would have retreated by miles within a human lifetime. Salt water would have poisoned freshwater springs and flooded hunting grounds. Generations of people would have watched their homes, their sacred sites, and their entire world slowly vanish beneath the waves. They had no choice but to retreat, to migrate to higher ground, carrying with them the traumatic story of the relentless, drowning sea. Imagine animations showing these lost continents, these vast coastal plains, slowly turning from green to blue as the ocean claims them. This was a global event experienced by coastal peoples everywhere. The flood myths are the collective human memory of this profound loss. They are the stories our ancestors told to make sense of a world that was literally shrinking, a testament to the time when the sea rose and the map of the world was redrawn forever. The memory of rising seas was a warning, a testament to the power of a world out of balance. Centuries ago, in the arid landscapes of the American Southwest, the Hopi people gave a name to this profound state of disharmony, Koyaanisqatsi. This is not a simple word for bad weather. It means a life of corruption, a way of living so disordered and disrespectful that it throws the entire world into chaos. The Hopi prophecies spoke of clear signs that would herald this age, warnings that feel unsettlingly familiar today. They described a time when the land would be scarred by strange stone webs, a web of roads. They spoke of rivers that would run black and poisonous, and of seasons that would lose their rhythm, bringing unseasonal heat or cold. This was a spiritual diagnosis of a sick world, a prediction that when humanity lives out of sync with nature, nature itself will rebel. This ancient prophecy is a stunning premonition of our modern ecological crisis. The science of climate change gives us the data, the rising global temperatures, and the increasing frequency of extreme weather events. But Koyaanisqatsi gives us the meaning. It frames our environmental struggle not just as a technical problem, but as a profound spiritual and cultural failure. The principles of modern ecology echo this wisdom. We now understand that every ecosystem is a delicate network. Pollute a river and you poison the fish, the animals that drink from it, and the plants that grow along its banks. Clear-cut a forest and you disrupt rainfall patterns, erode the soil, and release stored carbon into the atmosphere, accelerating global warming. The Hopi vision understood this interconnectedness intuitively. They saw the world as a single, living entity where human actions have direct and unavoidable consequences. Picture the contrast. On one side, the prophecy fulfilled, images of smog-choked cities, bleached coral reefs, and rivers choked with industrial waste. On the other, the path of correction, fields of solar panels turning sunlight into clean energy, wind turbines harnessing the air, and restored wetlands teeming with life. These modern solutions are our attempt to restore balance, to move away from a life of Koyaanisqatsi. The prophecy was not a prediction of an unavoidable fate. It was a call to action, a plea for a different way of living that honors the intricate web of life. It suggests that our ancestors were not just storytellers, but the world's first ecologists, understanding a truth we are only now, with all our technology, being forced to relearn. Our ancestors saw only one sun in their sky, yet some of their most profound myths dared to speak of many. Ancient Vedic scriptures from India contain a breathtaking assertion that our universe is not alone. They describe countless suns, each illuminating its own world, and speak of innumerable creations or brahmanas, each a self-contained universe with its own laws and its own cycle of time. This was not a poetic metaphor for stars, but a radical cosmological vision of a reality teeming with worlds beyond our own. For millennia, this idea seemed like the ultimate flight of philosophical fancy. How could there be another universe when we can scarcely comprehend the size of our own? Modern cosmology, however, has begun to catch up with this ancient intuition. The leading theory for the very beginning of our universe, cosmic inflation, suggests a startling possibility. According to this model, the rapid, faster-than-light expansion of spacetime that created our Big Bang may not have been a one-time event. Instead, this inflationary energy might be eternal, continuously giving birth to new pocket universes in an ever-expanding cosmic foam. Think of a vast pot of water coming to a boil. Our entire universe, with its hundreds of billions of galaxies, might be just a single bubble in that seething, energetic cauldron. Each bubble universe could have entirely different physical properties. In one, the force of gravity might be stronger, making stars burn out in a flash. In another, the fundamental particles that make up matter might not even stick together, preventing atoms from ever forming. This is the multiverse hypothesis, and it has moved from science fiction to a serious, albeit controversial, topic of scientific debate, driven by the strange mathematics of quantum physics and the implications of our own universe's curiously fine-tuned constants. The Vedic sages envisioned countless brahmanas, each with its own creator and its own destiny. Our physics points to a vast inflationary landscape of bubble universes, a cosmic archipelago where we inhabit just one island. Both visions, born from deep thought millennia apart, challenge our most basic assumption that everything we see is all there is. The end of the world did not arrive in 2012, but the frenzy surrounding that year revealed a profound misunderstanding of Mayan genius. Their long count calendar was not a doomsday device, but a breathtakingly precise celestial clock. While popular culture obsessed over a single cycle's conclusion, scholars were marveling at the intricate gears of this cosmic timepiece. The Maya did not merely track days, they synchronized the rhythms of the heavens with a mathematical elegance that rivals modern computing. They calculated the length of our solar year to be 365.2420 days. Our most advanced measurements place it at 365.2422. The difference is a matter of minutes. This was not a lucky guess. It was the result of centuries of meticulous observation, recorded in complex glyphs and built into the very steps of their pyramids. Their obsession with accuracy extended far beyond the sun. They tracked the apparition cycle of Venus, the planet they associated with war and divinity, with similar precision. Their calculated Venusian year of 584 days is just 2 hours off from the figure established by contemporary astronomy. They could predict lunar eclipses and understood the complex patterns that govern the moon's dance with the Earth's shadow. All of this was achieved without telescopes, without silicon chips, using only the naked eye stone observatories and a sophisticated mathematical system that included the concept of zero. Their calendar was not a single timeline, but a system of interlocking cycles, like multiple gears of different sizes turning together. The sacred 260-day Tzolk'in round meshed with the 365-day Hob year, creating a larger 52-year calendar round. The long count itself was a grander cycle, tracking over 5,000 years of continuous time. The so-called end date in 2012 was simply the completion of one of these great cycles, the same way our own calendar resets after December 31st. It was a moment of renewal, not annihilation. Imagine animations of these calendar gears turning in perfect harmony, their alignments marking not an end, but the predictable, rhythmic pulse of the cosmos itself. The true prophecy of the Maya was not one of fear, but one of profound knowledge, a declaration that the universe runs on a schedule we can learn to read. For thousands of years, the heart was universally seen as the throne of the mind. The ancient Egyptians, masters of mummification, carefully preserved the heart for the afterlife, believing it would be weighed against a feather of truth. Yet, hidden within their sacred funerary spells, a radically different idea was being whispered. Inscriptions from the coffin texts, dating back over 4,000 years, contain a startling passage. It states that the breath of life is in the nostrils, but the king is commanded by his heart, and his deeds are in the brain. This is a breathtakingly precise division of labor. The Egyptians recognized the heart as the center of command, the seat of will and intention. But they assigned the execution of those commands, the very coordination of deeds and actions, to the brain itself. This was a profound anatomical insight buried within a spiritual text, while Greek philosophers like Aristotle would later reaffirm the heart as the sole source of consciousness. The Egyptian scribes had already pinpointed the brain's essential role as the body's master controller. They saw it not as inert filler, but as the organ that translates the king's command into physical reality. Modern neuroscience confirms this ancient intuition with stunning clarity. We now know the brain is the central processing unit of the entire body. The heart is a vital pump, but it is the brain that issues the signals telling your hand to move, your eyes to track a moving object, your lungs to draw that breath of life. The neural pathways are the physical manifestation of our deeds. Every thought, every decision, every action is orchestrated by the intricate electrical and chemical dance within the brain's billions of neurons. How did the Egyptians, without modern imaging or dissection, arrive at such a sophisticated understanding? Their expertise in mummification gave them an intimate knowledge of the human body. They would have observed that the brain was connected to the spinal cord, and that injuries to the head could rob a person of their ability to speak or move, directly linking the brain to the control of deeds. The coffin text was not a scientific paper, but it captured a fundamental truth that science would spend millennia rediscovering. It suggests that long before we had the tools to see inside the living skull, the human mind had already begun to map its own mysterious workings. 2.5 millennia ago, a Greek philosopher named Democritus asked a simple, world-shattering question. If you take a piece of cheese and cut it in half, then in half again, and keep cutting, will you be able to do so forever? His answer, reached not in a laboratory but through pure reason, was a definitive no. He proposed that there must be a final, fundamental particle, an uncuttable building block of all reality. He called it the atomos. This was a staggering leap of logic. Democritus and his teacher Leucippus envisioned a universe of infinite, swirling atoms and void. Everything we see, taste, and touch, from the hardest diamond to the softest breeze, was merely different configurations of these invisible, indestructible particles. The sweetness of honey and the bitterness of olive were not inherent qualities, but the result of specific atomic shapes interacting with our senses. For over 2,000 years, this was considered a fascinating but unproven philosophical speculation. Then, science caught up. The modern atomic theory, born in the 19th century, confirmed that Democritus was right in his most basic premise. All matter is indeed composed of atoms, but the story did not end there. We discovered that his uncuttable atomos was in fact cuttable. It was composed of a nucleus of protons and neutrons orbited by a cloud of electrons. And then we went deeper, smashing particles together in colossal machines to discover a whole zoo of subatomic particles, quarks and leptons that are, for now, the true fundamental building blocks. Democritus had envisioned the first floor of reality's structure, while our particle physics has revealed a dizzying basement filled with strange and wonderful machinery. The Greek philosophers had no experimental proof, no cloud chambers or particle accelerators. They used the most powerful tool available, the human capacity for rational thought, to deduce a truth about the fabric of existence that would take science millennia to verify. Imagine animations showing the smooth surface of a stone, then zooming in to reveal its crystalline lattice, then further to the buzzing atoms, and further still to the swirling dance of quarks within a proton. The solid, permanent world we experience is an illusion, a magnificent collective dance of countless trillions of tiny, invisible particles. How is it possible that an idea born from pure contemplation could so accurately map the fundamental nature of physical reality? It suggests that the logic of the cosmos is, in some profound way, written into the human mind. The universe itself is subject to a relentless law of decay. This is the core of the Buddhist teaching of anicca, the profound truth of impermanence. It states that all of existence, from a fleeting thought to a massive galaxy, is in a constant, unstoppable state of flux. Nothing remains the same from one moment to the next. A flower blossoms, wilts, and returns to the soil. A mountain, seemingly eternal, is slowly worn down by wind and rain. A mighty empire rises, peaks, and crumbles into dust. Anicca is not a pessimistic view, but a clear-eyed observation of reality's fundamental nature. Everything is a process, not a permanent object. This ancient spiritual insight finds a startling echo in one of the most fundamental laws of modern physics, the second law of thermodynamics. This law introduces the concept of entropy, a measure of disorder or randomness in a system. It states that in any isolated system, the total entropy always increases over time. Simply put, everything in the physical universe has a natural tendency to move from a state of order to a state of disorder. Energy disperses, structures break down, and complexity gives way to simplicity. A hot cup of coffee left on a table will eventually cool to room temperature, its heat energy spreading out irreversibly into the surrounding air. A sandcastle on the beach is slowly dismantled by the wind and waves. Even the stars themselves are not exempt. They burn through their nuclear fuel, and when it is exhausted, they collapse into white dwarfs, neutron stars, or black holes, their magnificent order dissolving back into the cosmic background. The second law of thermodynamics is the scientific expression of anicca. Both principles point to the same undeniable truth, that decay is woven into the very fabric of reality. Visualize a time lapse of a vibrant green leaf turning brown and brittle, crumbling to nothing. See a mountain range gradually eroding into a gentle plain over millions of years. Watch a star in its final death throes, exploding in a supernova that scatters its elements across the void. These are not images of failure, but of a universal process. The beauty of a sunset is inseparable from the scattering of light that marks the day's end. The peace of a forest floor is built upon the decay of countless fallen leaves, creating the soil for new life. Impermanence is not the enemy of existence, it is the very engine of change and renewal. How does this ancient understanding of constant change reshape your view of the world around you and even the world within you? A shadow races across the sun, swallowing its light in the middle of the day. For the Norse, this was not a celestial coincidence, but a moment of pure terror. They saw a giant wolf named Skirl, born of a trickster god, eternally chasing the sun across the sky. The brilliant sun, personified as the goddess Sol, fled in her chariot, desperate to stay ahead of the beast's snapping jaws. A solar eclipse meant Skirl was gaining, that for one terrifying moment he had nearly caught her. The world held its breath, praying for the sun to break free from the predator's grasp. This myth gave a face and a story to an event that defied all logic, transforming a random astronomical phenomenon into a dramatic, understandable struggle between order and chaos. The science behind this event is just as breathtaking, though it requires no monstrous wolves. A solar eclipse is a perfect cosmic alignment, a dance of orbits and shadows. The moon, 400 times smaller than the sun, is also 400 times closer to Earth. This perfect proportion means that when the moon passes directly between the Earth and the sun, it can completely obscure the sun's disk, casting a fleeting shadow upon our planet. The awe we feel during totality is the same awe the Vikings felt, but we understand the mechanics. We know the moon's orbit is tilted, which is why we do not have an eclipse every single month. We can predict these alignments with pinpoint accuracy, charting the path of totality across the globe for centuries to come. Yet, even with all our knowledge, the primal response remains. The air grows cold, the birds fall silent, and the sky darkens to a deep twilight, revealing the sun's ethereal corona. It is a humbling reminder of our place in a vast clockwork system. Myths like Skirl's chase were humanity's first user manual for the universe. By turning the sun and moon into characters with motivations and conflicts, our ancestors made the unpredictable predictable. They replaced fear with narrative, creating a world where even the most frightening events had a story, a reason, and most importantly, an end. That moment when the first sliver of sunlight returns, the diamond ring effect breaking the darkness, is the relief of Sol escaping the wolf once more, a promise that light will always return. Before the gods themselves existed, there was only water. The Babylonian epic known as the Enuma Elish opens in a state of primordial chaos, a vast and formless expanse of salt water, personified as the goddess Tiamat, mingling with the sweet waters of the god Apsu. From their union, generations of younger gods were born, but their noise and energy disturbed the quiet of the ancient waters. A great conflict erupted, a cosmic war that would shape reality itself. The champion of the new gods, Marduk, faced the monstrous Tiamat, who had taken the form of a great dragon of the deep. In a climactic battle, Marduk rode the storm winds, unleashed his net of the four winds, and shot an arrow of fierce winds into Tiamat's mouth, splitting her body in two. With one half of her carcass, he fashioned the dome of the sky. With the other, he created the solid earth. Her weeping eyes became the sources of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and from the blood of her defeated commander, he created humanity to serve the gods. This was not just a story of divine politics, it was an attempt to explain the very architecture of the world, born from a violent struggle within a watery abyss. This ancient narrative finds a stunning parallel in our modern scientific understanding of the solar system's birth, the nebula hypothesis, 4.5 billion years ago, our Sun and its planets did not exist. In their place was a massive, swirling cloud of cold gas and dust, a nebula, a chaotic and formless sea in the void. A nearby event, perhaps the shockwave from a dying star's supernova, caused this cloud to collapse under its own gravity. As it spun faster and flattened into a vast, rotating disk, the young Sun ignited at its heart. Within this disk, the real battle began. Dust grains and ice particles collided, sticking together. These clumps, called planetesimals, grew larger through countless collisions, their gravitational pull attracting more and more material. This was a period of immense violence, a chaotic, grinding accretion where smaller bodies were shattered or swallowed whole by larger ones. The epic battle between Marduk and Tiamat is a powerful metaphor for this turbulent process. The splitting of Tiamat's body to form the heavens and the earth mirrors the theorized event in our own solar system's youth, where a Mars-sized protoplanet is believed to have collided with the young Earth, an impact so violent it blasted material into orbit that later coalesced into our moon. Visualize the stunning images from the Hubble and other telescopes capturing these very processes in action. We see young stars like HL Tauri encircled by dark, concentric rings within a glowing protoplanetary disk, the clear lanes carved out by infant planets sweeping up debris as they form. The watery chaos of Tiamat is the primordial nebula. The great battle is the gravitational struggle that forged the planets. The creation of the world from the body of a vanquished god is the accretion of Earth and its siblings from the raw material of the cosmic cloud. How is it that a story carved into clay tablets thousands of years ago could so perfectly capture the violent, creative drama that science has only recently been able to reconstruct? Hubris has a name, and it is Icarus. His story, told for thousands of years, is a perfect parable of human ambition crashing against the unyielding laws of nature. Daedalus, a master craftsman, fashioned wings from feathers and wax for himself and his son to escape their island prison. He gave one crucial instruction: fly a middle course. Do not fly too low where the sea spray could soak the wings and drag you down, and do not fly too high where the sun's fierce heat could melt the wax. Icarus, intoxicated by the thrill of flight, ignored the warning. He soared higher and higher, drunk on the freedom and the sheer power of his ascent. He felt the air grow thinner and the warmth on his face intensify into a scorching blaze. The wax holding his wings together softened, then ran in dripping streams. The feathers loosened and scattered on the wind, and Icarus, his wings now just useless frames on his arms, tumbled from the sky into the sea that now bears his name. This is far more than a simple fable about listening to your father. It is a precise, almost clinical demonstration of fundamental physics. The wax melted because of thermodynamics, the inevitable flow of heat from a hotter object, the sun, to a cooler one, the wings. The design failed because of material science, the wax having a specific melting point that was catastrophically exceeded. His fall was the relentless, predictable pull of gravity, the force that governs all motion in our universe. Even the instruction to avoid the sea spray shows an intuitive understanding of fluid dynamics and the dangers of increased weight and drag. Every element of the myth is a lesson in the constraints of the physical world. Science is at its heart the study of these very constraints. We cannot build a perpetual motion machine because it violates the laws of thermodynamics. We cannot travel faster than light because of the nature of spacetime itself. The story of Icarus is a timeless warning that our dreams, no matter how grand, must be built with respect for the rules of reality. His fall was not a punishment from the gods, but the inevitable outcome of a system pushed beyond its physical limits. The Aztec vision of time was not a straight line into the future, but a precarious wheel of creation and ruin. They believed our world is the fifth in a series, each previous age ruled by its own sun, and each one ending in absolute annihilation. The first sun was destroyed by jaguars that devoured all of humanity. The second sun ended in a colossal hurricane that swept the earth clean. The third era was consumed by a rain of fire, and the fourth was washed away by a global deluge. These are not random acts of divine fury. They form a precise sequence of cataclysms, a prophetic memory of planetary trauma. Modern geology has unearthed a startlingly similar timeline. The fossil record reveals that life on Earth has not progressed smoothly. It has been punctuated by 5 devastating mass extinctions, events so severe they reshaped the course of evolution. The Aztecs' 4 destroyed worlds find an eerie echo in 4 of these ancient die-offs. Their jaguar sun could correspond to the late Devonian extinction, a prolonged crisis where shifting climates and ocean changes strangled marine life, a slow devouring of the world's creatures. The hurricane sun aligns with the Permian-Triassic event, the Great Dying, where volcanic eruptions poisoned the atmosphere and oceans, causing storms of acid rain and wiping out nearly 96% of all marine species. The Sun of Fire mirrors the end Triassic extinction, another period of massive volcanism that scorched the planet. Their flood sun resonates with the earlier Ordovician Silurian extinction, triggered by a sudden, severe ice age that lowered sea levels and destroyed habitats. And our current fifth sun, the Aztec era of movement, which they believed would end in earthquakes, finds its parallel in the most famous extinction of all, the Cretaceous-Paleogene event. This was the catastrophe that ended the age of the dinosaurs, caused by an asteroid impact so violent it sent a shroud of dust around the globe, blocking the sun and collapsing food chains. Visualize the geological strata, the layers of rock that are the pages of Earth's history. At these specific boundaries, the fossil evidence changes dramatically. Below the line, a world teeming with diverse dinosaurs. Above it, silence followed by the slow emergence of mammals. The Aztec myth, passed down through generations, seems to have intuited this violent rhythm. How could a civilization without paleontologists grasp the concept of successive global annihilations? The answer may lie in the land itself. In Mexico, the evidence of ancient volcanic fury and colossal floods is written into the very mountains and canyons. The myth of the 5 suns is not a literal history, but a profound cultural recognition that the ground we stand on has been the stage for multiple worlds, each one rising and falling long before our own. For centuries, alchemists toiled in secret laboratories driven by an impossible dream. They sought the philosopher's stone, a legendary substance that could perform the ultimate magic, transmuting base lead into precious gold. Their experiments with furnaces and strange elixirs never produced a single ounce of the noble metal, and their quest was eventually dismissed as mystical folly, the unscientific precursor to true chemistry. Yet, in a stunning twist of fate, we now know their fundamental goal was not wrong, only their method. The dream of transmutation is absolutely real, and it happens all around us and even within us through the power of the atomic nucleus. The alchemists' era was chemical. They were trying to rearrange atoms through reactions, but the identity of an element is locked in its heart, in the number of protons within its nucleus. To change lead into gold, you cannot simply mix it with another substance. You must fundamentally alter the atom itself, a feat that requires energies far beyond any medieval furnace. This is the domain of nuclear physics. Inside massive particle accelerators like the Large Hadron Collider, or within the core of a nuclear reactor, we can bombard elements with subatomic particles. When a nucleus is struck with enough force, it can gain or lose protons, literally transforming from one element into another. We can, in fact, create gold from other elements like mercury or platinum through this process. The catch is that it costs vastly more energy than the resulting gold is worth, making it a scientific curiosity rather than an economic one. The true masters of alchemy, however, are the stars. Every single atom of gold on Earth, in your jewelry or in ancient treasures, was forged in the heart of a dying star. Through the process of nuclear fusion, stars fuse lighter elements like hydrogen and helium into heavier ones. But to create elements as heavy as gold, you need something even more violent, like the collision of two neutron stars or a supernova explosion. In those final, cataclysmic moments, a star blasts its newly forged elements across the cosmos, seeding space with the raw materials for planets and life. The alchemists, hunched over their crucibles, were groping toward a profound truth about the universe, that matter is not static but dynamic and transformable. Their philosophical quest to change one substance into another was ultimately achieved, not by magic, but by unlocking the nuclear forces that bind the cosmos together. They sought to imitate the stars, and in a way, our greatest machines now allow us to do just that. Deep in the deserts of Central Asia, the ground itself seemed to breed monsters. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus recorded a strange tale from the nomadic Scythians, a people who roamed those stark landscapes. They spoke of fierce creatures called griffins, guardians of the desert's gold. These beasts were described with the powerful body of a lion and the majestic head and wings of an eagle, a terrifying fusion of the most formidable predators known to man. For centuries, this was dismissed as just another traveler's fable, a fantastical explanation for why certain remote areas were so difficult to mine. But the truth buried in those sands is far more incredible than the myth itself. The very regions the Scythians described, the windswept expanses of the Gobi Desert, are among the richest fossil beds on Earth. And the most common dinosaur found there is Protoceratops. Picture the skeleton of this creature. It was not enormous, roughly the size of a large sheep, with a stout, four-legged body that could easily be compared to a lion. Its most distinctive feature was its skull, ending not in sharp teeth at the front, but in a pronounced curved beak strikingly similar to an eagle's. And framing that skull was a large, bony frill, a shield of bone extending back over its neck. To a people who had never conceived of dinosaurs, what would such a frill look like, bleached white and fragmented by time, lying half buried in the sand? It would not take much imagination to see it as the skeletal framework of vast, sweeping wings. These Protoceratops fossils are found in direct association with gold deposits, exactly as the Scythian stories claimed. The griffins did not guard the gold, they were the gold, or rather, their bone-white remains were a constant companion to the precious metal in the hills and eroding cliffs. The Scythians were not inventing pure fantasy, they were doing what humans have always done, using the framework of their own world to make sense of a mysterious and ancient one. They encountered these bizarre, petrified skeletons and constructed a living, breathing creature from the clues. The myth of the griffin is not a lie, it is a fossilized memory, a prehistoric paleontology born from the desert sun and the shifting sands. Darkness was not an abstraction but a sentence of death. In the foundational myth of Japan, the sun itself is a goddess, Amaterasu, whose radiant light sustains the world. When her brother, the storm god Susanoo, wreaks havoc upon her sacred rice fields and defiles her weaving hall, her grief is absolute. She retreats into the rock cave of heaven, sealing the entrance with a massive stone. Instantly, the world is plunged into an endless, frigid night. Crops fail, spirits wither, and demons stir in the perpetual gloom. The other gods, desperate and terrified, gather outside the cave. Their solution was not force, but pure, irresistible joy. They hung jewels and a mirror from a tree, and the goddess Aim no Usium began a wild, ecstatic dance upon an upturned tub. Her performance was so comical and full of life that the assembled gods roared with laughter. Inside her dark prison, Amaterasu heard the uproar. Curiosity pricked her sorrow. She cracked the stone door open just enough to ask what could possibly be so amusing. Aim no Usium declared they were celebrating because a new goddess, more splendid than Amaterasu, had appeared. When Amaterasu peeked out to see this rival, she saw her own magnificent reflection in the mirror. Stunned by her own radiance, she leaned further out, and a powerful god seized the opportunity to pull her fully from the cave. Light flooded back into the world. This story is a breathtakingly human explanation for the sun's most terrifying disappearance, a total solar eclipse. The world going dark was not a random event, but the result of a deity's wounded feelings. The desperate, joyful strategy of the other gods to lure her out mirrors the real-world response of ancient cultures during an eclipse, where people would make noise with drums and gongs to scare away the monster they believed was swallowing the sun. But the myth's power goes deeper than a single celestial event. It is a profound recognition of the sun's absolute necessity. The goddess' withdrawal means the end of agriculture, the collapse of the food chain, the victory of cold and starvation. Her return is not just the return of light, but the return of life itself. By personifying the sun, the myth makes this immense, impersonal force something that can be understood, appealed to, and even coaxed back through ritual and celebration. It transforms a terrifying astronomical reality into a story with emotional stakes, a drama where the community, through its collective action, can help restore the cosmic order. The Celts saw the world as a veil, thin in certain places and easily torn. They believed in an otherworld, a realm that existed alongside our own, a parallel dimension of timeless beauty and magic. This was not a distant heaven or a fearsome underworld, but a reality that brushed against ours, hidden just beyond the corner of the eye. It was a place where time flowed differently, where a single night of feasting could equal 100 years in the mortal realm. Portals to this other existence were scattered throughout the landscape, often in liminal spaces, the thresholds between here and there. An ancient burial mound or shia might open into a vast, illuminated hall. A sudden, inexplicable bank of fog over a lake could be the doorway. A lone hawthorn tree standing in a field might mark a place where the walls between worlds were whisper-thin. The otherworld was always present, a layer of reality just out of phase with our own, waiting for the right moment or the right person to step through. This ancient, intuitive sense of a multilayered universe finds a startlingly familiar echo in the most advanced frontiers of theoretical physics. Concepts like the multiverse and string theory propose that our four-dimensional spacetime may be just one page in a vast cosmic book. In one version, parallel universes may exist in a state of eternal inflation, bubbling into existence endlessly, each with its own unique physical laws. Another idea from string theory suggests our entire universe could be a three-dimensional membrane or brain, floating in a higher dimensional space, potentially alongside other brains, other entire universes that we cannot perceive. These are not realities you can sail to in a ship. They are mathematical possibilities, other dimensions curled up at scales so infinitesimally small, or existing in geometries so alien that they remain beyond our physical reach. Yet the core idea is the same, a cosmos filled with multiple, coexisting realities. The Celtic Shia is a mythological precursor to the theoretical brain. The fairy mist that obscures the portal is a poetic analogy for the cosmological horizon that limits our perception. Both visions, one born from folklore and the other from mathematics, challenge the arrogant assumption that what we see is all there is. They suggest that reality is far richer, far stranger, and far more layered than our everyday senses can ever reveal. What if the stories of people stumbling into the otherworld and returning ages later are primitive interpretations of crossing into a different dimensional plane, where time itself is not a constant river but a variable landscape? The ancient Celts felt the presence of another world in the quiet of the forest and the stillness of the lake. Our physicists calculate its possibility in the silent language of equations. Both are searching for the hidden doorways in the fabric of everything. High in the Andes, the Inca told of a creator who began his work not on land but in water. The god Viracocha first emerged from the profound depths of Lake Titicaca into a world of absolute darkness. His initial command was not to build mountains or shape valleys, but to establish the most fundamental division of all. He commanded light to separate from the darkness, bringing the first dawn into existence. Only after this primal act did he call the sun, the moon, and the stars to rise into the sky, placing them in their celestial paths to govern time and seasons. This story of creation from a single primordial point in the lake mirrors a scientific genesis in a way that is almost too precise to dismiss. The modern Big Bang theory describes a universe born from a singularity, a point of infinite density and temperature. In that first unimaginable moment, the four fundamental forces of nature, including the electromagnetic force that governs light, were one and the same. As the newborn universe expanded and cooled, these forces separated from their unified state in a process known as symmetry breaking. The force of electromagnetism broke free, and with it, light itself was unleashed upon the cosmos. For hundreds of thousands of years, the universe was a hot, opaque fog of plasma, a true cosmic darkness. Then, as it cooled further, electrons and protons combined to form the first atoms, and space suddenly became transparent. The universe was flooded with that first primordial light, which we can still detect today as the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of creation. The Inca myth of Viracocha separating light from darkness is a powerful, intuitive grasp of this very sequence, a creation that begins with a fundamental separation at a single point. Both narratives confront the mystery of existence emerging from a state of nothingness, a concept philosophers call creation ex nihilo. The lake is the singularity. The command for light is the symmetry breaking. The summoning of the celestial bodies is the formation of stars and galaxies from the expanding, cooling universe. How is it that a culture isolated at 12,000 feet above sea level conceived of a cosmic genesis that aligns so elegantly with the story our most powerful telescopes now tell? It speaks to a universal human drive to answer the same profound question: where did all of this come from, and why is there something instead of nothing? A vast, empty ocean stretches to every horizon, a blue desert without a single landmark. Yet for the Polynesian voyagers, this was not an empty void. It was a mapped and living highway, its directions written in the stars, the wind, and the very motion of the sea itself. Their oral traditions spoke of a skill called wave piloting, a way to feel the presence of distant islands long before they rose over the curve of the earth. They learned to read the ocean's subtle language, interpreting the deep, rhythmic swells that rolled across the Pacific. A master navigator or wayfinder would lie down in the hull of his canoe, feeling the vessel's pitch and roll through his entire body. He could detect the faintest echo, a specific pattern rebounding from an island hundreds of miles away. This knowledge was not a mere trick. It was the key that unlocked the Pacific, allowing them to discover and settle every habitable island across 10 million square miles of ocean, a feat of exploration unmatched in human history. For centuries, European sailors, reliant on compasses and sextants, dismissed these stories as impossible myths. How could anyone navigate by the feel of the water? The science, however, has caught up to the legend. Modern oceanography reveals that the Polynesians were reading the ocean's own signature. When a deep ocean swell encounters an island, it doesn't just pass by. The landmass acts as a lens, bending the waves and creating a distinct interference pattern. These patterns, known as refraction and diffraction, create a unique signature that radiates outward from the island like a set of concentric rings. A skilled wayfinder could discern these subtle shifts in the wave sequences, distinguishing the pattern of one island chain from another. He could sense the reflected wave bouncing back from a distant shore and the calm shadow zone directly downwave from the land. This was a three-dimensional mental map built from the feel of the sea. Imagine dynamic visualizations showing these deep, powerful swells moving across the open ocean. As they approach a volcanic island, they warp and bend, their energy wrapping around the landmass. The wave crests realign into a new, complex geometry, a fingerprint on the surface of the sea that a trained human being could actually decode. The myth of wave piloting was not a superstition. It was an advanced science of the senses, a perfect synthesis of human intuition and the immutable physics of the natural world. It proves that the greatest maps are not always drawn on paper but felt in the bones. The story of a world born from a slain goddess is one of humanity's oldest recorded narratives. In the Babylonian Enuma Elish, the universe begins not with light, but with a mingling of salt and fresh waters, the male Apsu and the female Tiamat. Tiamat is the primordial ocean, a chaotic, monstrous embodiment of the untamed deep. When her divine descendants disturb her quiet, she transforms into a vengeful dragon of the sea, raising an army of monsters to reclaim her dominion. The storm god Marduk confronts her, riding the four winds as his chariot. He unleashes a tempest into her gaping mouth, inflating her body until he can fire an arrow that splits her in two. With one half of her corpse, he constructs the dome of the heavens. With the other, he fashions the solid earth. Her weeping eyes become the sources of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This violent dismemberment of a watery goddess to form the sky and the land is a profound metaphorical echo of our planet's own violent infancy. Science tells us that Earth began as a molten sphere, a true water world shrouded in a thick, reducing atmosphere of hydrogen, methane, and ammonia. There was no clear distinction between land and sky, only a seething, chaotic mixture. As the young planet cooled over millions of years, a violent process of differentiation occurred. Heavier elements, primarily iron and nickel, sank inward to form the core. Lighter, rocky materials rose to the surface, gradually solidifying into the first thin crust. This crust was not a single, unbroken shell. It was a dynamic, fractured skin, constantly reworked by volcanic activity and the relentless bombardment of leftover planetary debris. Outgassing from this turbulent interior slowly created a new atmosphere, separating the sky above from the ground below. The splitting of Tiamat is this very process personified. Her chaotic, saline body is the primordial ocean and the early, dense atmosphere. Marduk's arrow is the force of gravity and planetary cooling that divided that unified chaos into the structured layers we know today. Her tears forming the great rivers symbolize how water, once encompassing everything, became channeled and contained by the newly formed land. How could an ancient civilization conceive of a planet forged from a watery abyss? They looked at their world and saw that water was the source of all life. It was a logical and, as it turns out, scientifically insightful leap to imagine that water was also the source of the world itself. The myth of Tiamat is not a literal history but a poetic truth, a story that captures the essence of our world's dramatic and watery birth. The soil itself remembers these ancient partnerships. Long before the science of agriculture had a name, Native American tribes across the continent were cultivating a sacred garden, a trinity of plants they called the Three Sisters. According to the myth, these were three loving sisters who could never be parted. Corn, the eldest sister, stands tall and straight. Bean, the middle sister, is a gentle climber. And Squash, the youngest, spreads her broad leaves close to the earth. The legend said they thrive only when planted together, each one supporting the others in a perfect, inseparable circle of life. This was not just a charming story. It was a precise, practical guide to one of the most sustainable farming systems ever developed. The myth encoded a brilliant understanding of symbiotic relationships that modern agronomy has only recently begun to fully appreciate. The tall stalk of corn provides a natural pole for the bean vine to climb, a living trellis reaching for the sun. In return, the bean plant does something miraculous. It draws nitrogen from the air and, with the help of bacteria in its root nodules, converts it into a natural fertilizer, nourishing the hungry corn. The sprawling squash then completes the circle. Its large, bristly leaves create a living mulch on the soil surface, shading out weeds, conserving precious moisture, and its prickly vines deter pests like raccoons from raiding the corn. Together, they form a miniature, self-sustaining ecosystem. Each sister gives what the others need, creating a resilient whole that is far greater than the sum of its parts. This is the science of companion planting, a principle we now know is fundamental to healthy, organic agriculture. The ancient myth of the three sisters is a testament to a deep, observational wisdom that saw the natural world not as a collection of isolated resources to be exploited, but as a community of beings in constant, supportive conversation. How many other secrets of resilience and balance are waiting to be rediscovered in the world's oldest stories? A mystery hangs in the southern sky, centered on the brightest star we can see from Earth. For the Dogon people of Mali, the star Sirius was never a single point of light. Their oral traditions, passed down through countless generations, spoke of a profound secret. They knew of a tiny, incredibly heavy companion star they called Potolo. This invisible sibling, they said, orbited the main star once every 50 years in a long, elliptical dance, and it was made of a metal heavier than all the iron on our planet. This was not just a story, it was a precise astronomical description. Western astronomy did not confirm the existence of this white dwarf star, Sirius B, until the year 1862. It is one of the most dense objects known, a teaspoon of its matter weighing many tons, and it does indeed complete its orbit in almost exactly 50.1 years. How could a people without telescopes possess such specific knowledge about a star they could not even see? Two compelling and conflicting theories attempt to solve this riddle. The first suggests the Dogon are the guardians of an ancient legacy, a fragment of astronomical wisdom handed down from a much older, perhaps now lost, civilization that somehow observed or calculated the existence of this stellar companion. The second theory argues for cultural contamination, that this knowledge was introduced to the Dogon by Western missionaries or anthropologists who visited the region in the 1920s and 30s, and whose accounts were then absorbed into the existing oral tradition. Proponents of the ancient knowledge theory point to the deep integration of the Sirius lore into Dogon cosmology, its connection to their creation myths and intricate sand drawings that map the star's orbits. They argue such complex and specific data is not easily grafted onto a culture. Those who favor the more recent transmission note that telescopes powerful enough to resolve Sirius B were available in Europe by the late 19th century, and that the information could have been shared and then mythologized within a few generations. This debate is the perfect capstone to our journey. It forces us to confront the very nature of knowledge itself. Is it possible that human understanding of the cosmos was once far more advanced than we have ever credited, its fragments surviving only as myth? Or does this story reveal the incredible power of the human mind to absorb new information and weave it seamlessly into the timeless fabric of its own worldview, creating a myth that feels ancient even when its roots are more recent? The truth may be lost to time, but the mystery of the Dogon and their unseen star challenges everything we assume about the past and about the hidden pathways of wisdom. We have journeyed from the cosmic cycles of Hindu sages to the ecological prophecies of the Hopi, from the interconnected cosmos of the Norse world tree to the atomic theories of the Greeks. Across 25 ancient visions, a single, stunning pattern emerges. These stories were not mere fantasies. They were humanity's first scientific models, born from millennia of meticulous observation and deep, intuitive thought. Our ancestors gazed at the stars, felt the tremors of the earth, and watched the rhythms of life and death, and they wove these observations into narratives that captured fundamental truths about our universe. The precision of the Mayan calendar, the systemic wisdom of the Great, the geological memory of the Dreamtime, these were not lucky guesses. They represent a different way of knowing, one that integrated the physical world with the spiritual and the cultural. This legacy challenges us to look at the old stories with new eyes. The next time you hear a folk tale about the weather or a legend of a lost land, listen closely. What forgotten knowledge is waiting to be rediscovered in the myths passed down by your own ancestors? The greatest mysteries are not always hidden in the future. They are often sleeping in our past, waiting for us to ask the right questions. Share the story that has always felt strangely true to you in the comments below. Let us continue this conversation and see what other truths we can uncover